Hey everybody, and welcome back to this X-Plane 11 stream. We're on the ground here in Weston Airport, just outside of the County Dublin. And our flight today, we're going to go across the country, over the Midlands, swing left at Shannon, and ramble on down to Kerry. Our machine for today is the Hot Start TBM900. Haven't done a whole lot of streaming with this plane, but it is one of my absolute favourites. With the newly released TorqueSim SR22, we showed off the King Air 350 from Airfoil Labs, and then we have the Hot Start TBM. Outside of the Zebra mod and probably the IXCG, these are the very best you can get in X-Plane. So I said, right, we'll give it an old bash. So this evening I'm trying to multi-stream, because that's not complicated or awkward. So let me know how it all looks and sounds, and if it doesn't work, we'll just go back to kind of what we know. This aircraft, absolutely phenomenal. The modelling, the texture work, the use of PBR, and we talk about systems modelling. This is an absolute study sim aircraft. So we have a whole load of menus here on the left hand side of the screen. My mush is blocking the towing and the GPU, but we'll go through the rest of it. So we're going to have a look at our maintenance hangar. We can check out our engine, and we can see here it has all the components for the engine: compressor, fuel, igniters, the starter, alternator. So it's a living, breathing machine. So if you mishandle it, it'll remember. You can check out the landing gear and also the tyres. You'll notice that the aircraft goes up on stilts. Pretty cool looking. So this aircraft is pretty much as new condition. I had it out in a quick flight earlier on. Go through our avionics now as well, make sure everything is working. You'll notice as well, it gives you the price to replace the stuff, just to give you an idea, you know. So a little keyboard that we just don't think much about, it's like, oh yeah, it's off the FMS, we'll just throw it in there. It's nearly $3,000 for that keyboard. What? So yeah, check all our LED lights, and the lights do look amazing on this aeroplane. We can check the airframe, damaged onto the wings or the flaps, windshield, the whole shebang. And then maintenance, we can have a look at our oxygen, our pressure sensor. Really, really cool stuff. So we'll go in now and go to our payload manager. And in here, we can do a number of things. So obviously we can set our weight and balance, we can check our fuel, we can do a whole load of stuff. So with our fuel, I'm going to put 110 in each of our tanks here. And you got to remember to close the tank afterwards, otherwise you will leak fuel as you fly. I haven't tried it, but I've been told that's what happens. So we can go ahead now, remove our static and pitot covers. Do on the front as well. Just ourselves flying in today, and well, you guys are virtual passengers. Get that door closed, jump inside here into the cockpit, we can have a look around. As I said, it's one of the finest aircraft in X-Plane. It's really cool. So let me know, guys, in the chat how everything looks and sounds. We shall see if it all works. So the modelling in here, look, absolutely fantastic. I'm going to spin around and have a look inside the back here. We can have a look in there now. After a few minutes, there's like tables and stuff and lighting. Some really cool, awesome stuff. Alright, so to get this machine started here, we have our main battery bar. We're going to flick that guy into the up position. Let's just start giving us power. And you can see our screens coming to life here. Garmin stuff. Go ahead and get our main battery switch on. Get our gen on there as well. So it's going to align. We should get a number of audio warnings just to kind of show us that all the systems are up and running. That's the start of it. Go ahead and cancel them.
Okay.
We'll activate our G1000 here. Everything is doing what it should do. AH or S are aligning. So what we're going to do, we can go down into our flight plan here and set ourselves up.
Test. Okay.
So we're going to okay this, go to the next line here, and we're going to put in Echo India Bravo Romeo. That'll be Burr. Next one then will be Shannon, Echo India November November. And our destination then will be Echo India Kilo Yankee. There. So that is our flight plan. And we can zoom out here to have a look at what we're doing. Let that screen load up here for a few seconds. Okay, so it's going to take us pretty much right across the Midlands, over to Shannon, and then down to Kerry. So that'll be our first flight. We'll see how everything's going up until that moment. It'll be interesting to see. So let's see here. Let me just check my stuff here. Okie dokie, so we can go ahead and get a couple of more systems up and running now. So we can go ahead and get our nav lights on. Won't worry about our strobes for a while. Cabin lights, access lights. Will be all okay. And we'll go back to these guys here now in a sec. Now we do need to turn on our inertial separator, which is on. Parking brakes not fully on, so we'll go ahead and set them. Here we go. We have our chocks on as well, so that's all okay. Fuel tank, we have a switch for that to keep it on automatic. There is a manual mode for it as well. Got a couple of cup holders here. If you lift this mat here, it'll show you the manual landing gear extension. That's if you're in bother. It's the little things that keep us occupied. All the fuses are fully modelled. As I said, this is a complete systems simulation. Everything works in here, so we'll we'll try not to make a complete hames of it. Okay, so all this is looking good. All our stuff is removed from outside. So first and foremost, go ahead and get our ignition to on. Booster pump on. Fuel selection is on auto. And what we're going to do, once we turn for power, once we get our NG up to a certain percentage, we can then introduce fuel. This hand throttle here, it's unique in every sense of the word. So we press and hold our starter there for about 3 seconds. We'll see our NG rising here up to 16. That's going to be good enough for me. We can now start introducing fuel into the system. It'll show you where your throttle needs to be located here on the right hand side, but we'll worry about that in a minute. We're watching for two things. We're looking for a hot start on our ITT, and we're looking for a hung start on our NG. So we peaked there at about 722. So that's a good start on our engine. We can go on now and turn on our bleeds and air. Put this into low idle. Giving us a little warning there. It doesn't like the aircon when you're in idle. So our ignition, go ahead and turn that off. Fuel pumps onto auto. Get our autopilot and our trim switch to on. Starter, all of these are good. Alrighty, we can go to flight idle. So we're going to get our power coming up here now. Go ahead and get our pitot heats on. Don't need to worry about de-icing at the moment, all is well. Now let's see here. Bye, Treelick is here. Good evening to you, sir. Many thanks for joining us here on the stream. I wasn't sure was the old chat working, but it appears to be okay. If you can let me know how the audios and visuals are working out. We're trying this multi-stream stuff here tonight, and well, let's see how it all goes. It could be good. Keep the faith. Keep the faith. Okay, so engines are running. We have headphones here. They kind of drown out the sounds. And we can jump outside to make sure everything is okay. Just great sounds in this airplane. Absolutely fantastic. Yep, everything sounds good. So we can go and set up a few more things just from our autopilot perspective. Our cruising altitude today is going to be 6,500. Everything over here is good. FMS is all good. Parking brake is on. We know about that. That's okay. Everything over here is good. We're good. So go ahead, get our taxi lights on. Our pulse lights as well. And time to boogie on out of here. So to release the parking brake, both pedals need to be pressed, and then we can go ahead and select the parking brake and remove our chocks. So kind of like a beta range, if you have a switch on your joystick or your throttle for reversers, it kind of works the same way. So you have a taxi range and then you have reverse range. So we'll keep it in taxi here for the moment, just as we taxi on out. Stuart Payne is here. Good evening to you, Stuart. Many thanks for joining. He says, good evening, Murph. Now you're in my first choice of aircraft. I tell you, the reason I'm hopping into this tonight, I was messing around on the beta of the other thing, and I was flying their TPM, and I did this exact route that I did here for this evening. Here's one for you. If you press !route, it should tell you where we're going, if someone wants to try it to make sure it's working. We're getting sophisticated here, lads. It's all about, you know, it's value or added value into the sim. We hope. Anyway, as we taxi on out of here in Weston, looking at this beautiful machine here. And again, you can have custom tail numbers, you can have custom paint schemes. We'll go the long way. There's a number of options in delivery. It's even aircraft manager, so you really do get a sense of ownership of this airplane. Absolutely fantastic. Don't forget your trims. Fair play that man. Trims are on or okay. Let's see here now. They weren't reset though. Did you notice that? So if we press this one and this one, that will reset our trims. That could have been embarrassing. Okay, as we're approaching the runway, landing lights on. Strobes come on here now as well. We're going to lower a notch of flaps here. Stuart says, I have a custom livery I'll share. It's my old regimental colours. Sweet! Yeah, you can throw it in Discord or, well, wherever you want, really. We'll definitely have a look at it. Okay, so we got ourselves lined up here. Quick checking everything just before we blast off. Everything looks good. Lights, flaps, and we're pretty good with that. We have very bumpy terrain here. Not sure where the mesh is at. Okay, so back into flight range. As we accelerate down the runway here, we're watching our torque. Don't want to overload it. Airspeed is alive. Keep on the center line. She needs a bit of rudder. There's 70 knots. We're up in the 90 knots there now. We're getting light. Gentle pull back on the stick. There's a positive rate of climb. Tap the brakes. Bring our landing gear in. Start our slight bank here to the right. Keep us on that magenta line. Bring our flaps back in as well. Our yaw dampener can come on. And we are airborne. Absolutely booting it as well. This is a fantastic aircraft. The performance on this, incredible. So just getting ourselves trimmed out here. Try and stay in this magenta line. Climb rate is good. We can probably aim for about 1500 feet per minute, which is going well. So we're going to go ahead and put on our nav, activate the autopilot. We're going to go to vertical speed. We'll keep this, once we get the camera back, at 1300. And it all chills out. I can't reach it. There. 1300 on our climb out. Plenty of power coming in. Keep an eye on our torque. Once we get to a certain altitude, we can then turn off our inertial separator. That'll give us a bit more power. And we should be easily able to cruise along here at about 220 to 250 knots. Stuart says, I'll put up Discord later, doing a full PC reset and cleanup to get ready for MSFS. Yes, that's I approve. Have you got the TBM Performance Calculate app? It's really good, especially for stall. I don't have. If you have a link for that, do throw it in and we'll have a look. So we're finished with our landing lights here. Strobes, nav and pulse lights are all fine. Igniters, fuel pumps, everything up here is doing what it needs to be doing. Just having a quick check on our temperatures and pressures. Fuel flow is fine. Pressurization is okay. And our electrical systems are fine. Oil pressure and temperature are all fine as well. So we'll notice the torque, that's going to drop down. Once it gets to about 80%, we're going to turn off the inertial separator. Because if you were to turn it off now, you'll probably go over torque. So weather-wise, we have kind of scattered and broken clouds for much of our journey. There's little to no wind. It's very calm out there. So I wouldn't be expecting any sort of crosswind landings for today. It's early yet. We'll give it a shot. So absolutely magnificent aircraft. Climb is still good. Speed is still good. So we'll kind of explore the cabin here as Otto is flying it. So you have, well, the first things first. You have an armrest. And you have, I wonder why it's not launching that, but you have respirators or oxygen, which is really handy. Moving on into the back here now, speed that up, and we get ourselves sat down here in executive number 1. And you'll notice we have storage bins under the seats here, just, I don't know, because. And then over here, we have a fancy table. And then we have lights. What more could you possibly want in an airplane? A drink, yes, a drink. Okay, so our power almost back down here at 80%. Just getting our altitude notification there. We're going to turn off the inertial separator. And we'll keep an eye on our torque. You see it rising up there under its own steam. We will tweak our throttle once we get up to our cruising altitude here of 6,500 feet. We have lovely satellite imagery for the entire island of Ireland. Always nice to be looking out over. So I want to torque back here now. You can see it, how quickly it rises. So as we level out here, we'll see our speed coming up. Our torque, we can probably leave it somewhere in between, kind of 80-ish. We're still increasing our speed nicely here. It's all looking well. FJM123 is here. Good evening to you. Thanks for joining along with the stream. We're in the TBM900 from hot start. We just took off out of Weston and we're going to make our way down to Kerry Airport. An amazing airplane, this. Chad Hittenberger is here. You're very welcome to the chat and to the stream, Chad. He asks, where in Ireland am I from? I have a very strange Irish accent. So, I'm originally from Dublin. I married a girl from Kildare. My closest friend is from Kerry. And I live in Tipperary. I'm well travelled. Stuart giving us some tips and advice for flying this aircraft. He says, in order to reduce light wear, you can turn off the taxi lights but leave the pulse on. They are super bright, them pulse lights. They are awesome. I'll hide me mush here so you can see more of the airplane. So we're absolutely tanking it here. We're up at about 220 knots, 6,500 feet. We're doing about 245 over the ground. We're about 5 minutes or so away from flying over Birr. Absolutely fantastic. You also have this gadget up here. It's basically your AOA indicator or angle of attack. Now, for whatever reason, you can't see the reflection, but it does work. So that's there. What else can we show you? Some of the finer details in the TBM. If you look at this kind of a Eddie Murph, if you look at this green and white, and they have them on all the doors, it's a visual indicator to the pilot that the door is actually sealed. If you open the door, I think it goes red and white. So, like, you talk about the finer details. There's another one here. So, any of the fans from Steve-O1 Knievo will immediately relate to this aircraft. Granted, he's flying in the slightly older TBM900, which, for me, I would probably prefer because it has steam gauges. I just love steam gauges. Now, with Microsoft Flight Sim, a lot of aircraft are glass. So, yeah, I think we're going to get used to the glass cockpits. But yeah, it's I just prefer the 850. Now remember, Coronado did an 850, but it wasn't fully steam gauge either, so you can't compare these two. This aircraft here from Hot Start, it's available on X Aviation. It's part of their Take Command series. When you look at the standard of the Take Command series, you have the IXEG 737, you have this, you have the SR22, amongst a few. Let's read up on about it. So let's see. The X Aviation Take Command brand represents the very best of flight simulation immersion. Real-world pilots test and assist in the development of these products, and real-world procedures are followed. So, Hot Start is a team comprised of two very talented, well-known developers in the X-plane world. While the name may be new, the previous projects, Better Pushback and the Take Command SAB 340, are far from new and have been met with tons of awards and accolades over the years. Combining forces has allowed these two developers to create the ultimate TBM900 simulation like none other seen on any flight simulator. And I can vouch for that. Stuart says it's broken. Well, it was broken. Yeah, no, he's a new video out today. I didn't watch it all though. He also flies the new 940 as well, but isn't authorised to film it. Chad wants to know, what is the weather like in Ireland today? It's not a million miles from what we have out of the windows here. So we had pretty bad weather over the weekend. Today wasn't too bad. We had scattered clouds, relatively fair to light winds. And it's been dry here all day, which has been sweet. We were supposed to have really heavy rain over the weekend. It didn't really happen. But yeah, temperature you're talking anywhere from kind of 14 to 18 degrees, and in the sunshine you might get up as high as 20. It's not too bad. What about you, Chad? Where are you from? Where do you hail from? Stuart says, are you part of Hot Start on Discord, Murph? I'm not. If you're not, I'll link you in. Many thanks, Stuart. Yeah, many thanks. I'm only getting to grips with Discord. But yes, absolutely. We'll have a look. So I'll continue in me waffling. Let's see now. The main objective for Hot Start was to create a product that not only simulated beautiful artwork and intense systems, but also to be a learning platform for its pilots. You'll become intimate with the knowledge of the PT6 engine, the costs of maintenance, and how flying specific ways may harm or help the aircraft's longevity. So if you guys have X-Plane 11 and you don't have this aircraft, you need to get it. You really need to get it. So some of the features of this airplane in X-Plane 11, it's heavily multi-threaded. So basically it's designed to utilize more cores of your processors, which are the more modern cores. The flight model tuned to perform to within a few percent of the real aircraft. Full aircraft state persistence, every switch, flight control position, fuel state, and on airport position is restored upon reload. And you can turn that on or off, it's up to yourselves. There's like 3 pages of stuff. So it also comes with a ton of liveries, including one very like Steve-O1 Knievel's. And he streamed this actually only a little while ago, which is awesome. So speed-wise we're okay, torque up at 88%, our fuel switches are doing what they need to be doing. We've just hit Burr, so we're now making a left turn, still on the autopilot. Very nice. Jump out here, see, can we see Burr beneath us? Which we can. So just behind the tail here now you have one of the hangars. It's a grass strip. Left brings you towards Burr, right out towards, what's that, this way? Rossgrey, Templemore, Thurles, right in the middle of Tipperary. Chad said he's from Scottsdale, Arizona. It's 170. It's 107 degrees right now. Oh. What I would do for nice weather and temperature like that, Chad. What I would do. Stuart says, Toto is doing a Challenger 650. Just wait until that drops. Yeah. That would be absolutely fantastic. The cost of maintenance, schedule load. Are you even X-Plane pilot if you don't have the TBM? I approve, Stuart. Good evening to you, Andre. Welcome to the stream. Many thanks for joining us. Why is everyone waiting there over Flight Sim 2020? Well, okay, so let's start at the beginning, shall we? X-Plane 11 is a fairly well solidified sim. It's been out a couple of years now. We know its limitations, we know the good stuff, and we know the bad stuff. Now they're still developing it. It's quite good. You know, X-Plane is fantastic. It's not just quite good, it's amazing. We haven't seen such a leap forward in capabilities, if you like, in a long time in any flight simulator. What Microsoft and Asoba are doing with Flight Sim 2020, they're creating such an amazing platform, amazing looking platform. If you take into consideration, you know, the world building, their weather engine, the graphics, the lighting, all that kind of good stuff. You're still going to have to depend heavily on third-party developers to give you the study life or study sim aircraft, perhaps. Some of the more maybe tighter scenery with more details in it. You can see what they've done with the handcrafted airports that Microsoft are going to release. Your third-party developers, they're going to be all over that. So in terms of what the sim can do out of the box, it's light years ahead of anything else we've ever seen. And even the difference from, if you were to look at FSX and then you look at X-Plane 11, okay, the capabilities of X-Plane 11, because it was the first to have 64-bit and all these other things, it couldn't do a whole lot different. Like, the night model was the best, the night lighting. That was X-Plane, that was always the, you know, the crown, or the jewel in the crown. With FSX and then P3D, it didn't run as well, but there was a lot more add-ons for it, more paid add-ons. X-Plane, there was a whole load of more free add-ons. But, you know, the gap gets bridged when you have the likes of these developers, the likes of Hotstart, the likes of TorqueSim and all these other guys. You know, FlyJSim is there, IXEG. You can name them all off. Aerobask, all these guys, they make phenomenal products for X-Plane. And it's because of them, well, we spend a lot of time in this sim. And then you have, you know, ortho scenery. You have freeware projects like X Europe, which is phenomenal work for building kind of autogen ground scenery. It makes the sim pretty good. One thing the sim is lacking, and it lacks it big style, that's a weather engine. My sim, I have FS Global Real Weather, I have Real Weather Connector, and at the minute I'm running Ultra Weather XP. That's 3 separate programs that try to depict the weather of what's actually happening. And if you look at it, if we didn't see, or if we never saw what Microsoft Flight Sim could do, we would say, yeah, that's actually very good. It's very convincing. And I had Rex and I had Active Sky over on FSX and P3D, and that gave you relatively good clouds as well. But now that we've seen the clouds and what's possible in the weather engine over on Microsoft Flight Sim, that's where the leap comes into it. Like, they have just gone from, you know, late 90s, early 2000s kind of weather graphics, and like they've pushed it right up to modern day. And even with P3D, I think version 5, they got an update to their weather engine as well. It's not as good as Microsoft Flight, but it's still, you know, it's a lot better. So, and then their lighting model is incredible. Like, it's crazy. Absolutely amazing. Stuart says, you complain it's too hot, Murph. I would, but 107 degrees with Chad, that just sounds like nice weather. Microsoft Flight Sim has pushed the boundaries, absolutely. Yeah, as Stuart says, you know, using tech that's 2020 and beyond, X-Plane 11 is awesome, but it's still using an engine that's over 8 years old. And it doesn't really use modern CPU to their potentials. And that's why they're trying to get Vulkan out. Stuart says, I use Active Sky Next, which is the best I've used, especially for clouds. Yep. Like, I think Active Sky Next, I've used, as I said, the FS Global Real Weather and Real Weather Connector along with SkyMax Pro, and for me, that's very, very good. But the cloud textures kind of aren't as cool looking, and I hate the fact that the sim has to refresh and reload in the weather, and it has nothing along the capabilities of rain and clouds and different pressures rolling into a city and, you know, rolling on again, and there's no immediate refresh. I haven't come across it yet. The weather engine in Flight Simulator is just the cat's meow. It's amazing. So a quick sit rep here. We're about 5 minutes, no we're not, we're about 4 minutes away from Shannon. We're making savage time here on our way down to Kerry Airport. We took off from Weston, headed over Burr. We're now going to hit Shannon, hang left down towards Kerry. We'll make a quick stop there, and then we'll do our second flight for this evening. I'm using my own advantages to do some sort of a comparison between Microsoft Flight Sim and X-Plane. I flew this route in Microsoft Flight Sim on the beta, so it's interesting to see how everything looks and sounds. I will say everything is very smooth here in X-Plane. I'm surprised how smooth it is, considering we're getting a 60 FPS frame hit, which is always good. Don't speak too soon, I'm with that. So that'll be Loch Derg in the background on the River Shannon. The Shannon will bring us all the way down to Limerick, and then it exits on out into the Atlantic. So that'll be Shannon Airport just off the nose of us there. A lot of great history with Shannon back in the day. It was used as the main stop-off point for nearly all your transatlantic flights between Europe and the United States. And the runway, it being so long, was actually used as a backup for a shuttle landing. Never landed there, but they had the option, which is pretty cool. In the modern era, Shannon Airport not as busy, and in particular with the Rona, it's even less busier. I think we've had, you know, Aer Lingus reviewing their operations there. Still gets a couple of cargo flights. There's the odd military transporter in for fuel as well, but that's about it. Andre, that's quite okay. Don't forget, guys, if you're new to the channel, here's a shameless plug coming up. Now, say what you want, but that took hours. That took hours. And it's not relevant for Twitch. I need to come up with an idea now for Twitch. So we're just about to hit our waypoint here at Shannon. We're getting our middle marker light as we approach the field. So here's our left turn. It worked. Chad has just subscribed. Many thanks for the subscription, Chad. You're most welcome. We have a Discord as well. We spam each other when we're not on the stream, but it's a useful place for information. If any news we have, we think that's going to be relative to our flight simming, both in X-Plane and of course in the upcoming Microsoft flight. If you guys get a chance as well, I saw Chewy released a very good video. He's starting a series on flying around the wonders of the world, and he did one of the pyramids, and it's a cool video. And then of course Squirrel did a nighttime flight. Frugal just did an introductory flight. There's so much there's so much noise about the Microsoft Flight Sim, and a good number of people have access to stream it. I certainly went looking to stream it. I asked them really nicely. But alas, I think I shall be waiting like everyone else. We have only 15 more days to wait. And then we'll see what's going to happen in our flight simulation world. But I can tell you this much. There are times in X-Plane, you know, the clouds aside, if we do something like this, well, not too much that, but say something like this, there's not a whole lot of stuff that can rival, in particular, the systems and the simulation of this aircraft. And you have good satellite imagery. So Chad wants to know, how does Shannon Airport get its name? Well, it's named after the Shannon, i.e. the River Shannon. My poster's falling down behind me. But anyway, the River Shannon. So basically, where Shannon Airport is located, it's just on the main Shannon estuary there as it rambles on out to the Atlantic. Trigger is here. Good evening, Trigger. Thanks for joining us. He says, I'm pretty sure you can get some animations like that, but not much. Forget the website though. That's okay, Trigger. Yeah, you can pick them up for Twitch. I'll figure it out. I have a couple of days off in 2 weeks. I'm planning a vacation when Microsoft Flight Sim comes out. So let's hope they don't push out the release date. Andre says, that looks great. Everything looks sweet here, dude. Stuart says, I watched that earlier. I couldn't believe the pyramids detail. It was unbelievable. The detail in them pyramids, absolutely fantastic. And yes, you can see some of the early limitations of Microsoft Flight Sim. If you're flying into an area, the sim needs to load up the textures and whatever. So, it's free scenery. So give yourself 10 seconds or even just like pause it and it'll load everything in. Chad says, thanks for the info. You're more than welcome, Chad. There are a number of airports around Ireland. If you're not familiar with the area, a lot of the airports in Ireland, some of them are stunning. Shannon, as I said, it was such an important airport for all the transatlantic flights. It was the main stopover point for nearly all of the traffic, as I said, from Europe to the US and vice versa. That's now changed an awful lot. They tend to fly up over Greenland and come down into kind of Scotland. But you couldn't do that back in the day. So we are on approach to Kerry. We're going to start bringing our speed all the way back, and we're going to reset our altitude here for 2,500 feet. So as we let our speed bleed off here, we're going to go into VS mode and point the nose down. So we're going to do a 700 feet per minute descend. Our torque, drop it all the way back. Our speed is bleeding off nicely. We're going to sync our heading bug. We're going to fly this visual approach manually. No traffic down this neck of the woods to worry about. Andre asks, why do you think X-Plane ATC is rubbish? Well, it's not rubbish. It's here. So, to file a flight plan, you must select an aircraft. Okay. We want the TBM Murph. Aircraft model is, it's a 900 we have, but okay, we'll go to 700. Airline not important. Optional routes, file it. I want to go to Kerry ground. Okay, what's the story here, lads? Auto tune. We go to Kerry. Yeah, so it doesn't want to work. Normally you have to tune COM 1. Yes. But if I select this little button, it should automatically tune it. Let's try that again, shall we? No. 123.32. 123.32. So COM Iverdahain, which should be here. And we're going to go to, what did we say it was? 123.325. That's alive. Yeah, the ATC is kind of borked in X-Plane. Yeah, what can you say? The default ATC, like it was never good in X-Plane, and they did a small bit of work. They tried to add in a couple of different sounds and give you the idea that you're actually talking to controllers, but the logic behind it didn't make sense at all. Over in Microsoft Flight Sim, it's better. It's not great. It's just better. It has a better understanding of trying to position you, and it's not going to keep, turn right 90 degrees. Okay, you turn right. Continue on heading. Okay, turn right 90 degrees. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of stuff not working with it. The inertial separator. We almost forgot. Stuart, only for you. We would have been in an absolute heap of losing the control of our systems on our simulated TBM. Kenneth Naughton is here. Good evening, Kenneth. He says, try your altitude. Arrival AKO. We're going to go EIKY en route. You must select it. Here we go again. TBM. En route altitude is going to be 2,500 feet. Our route. No. File it. Auto tune. Just doesn't want to do it, guys. There's our caution light on for our inertial separator, but that's quite okay. Torque is still sitting on 13, we're grand. Our speed is coming down as we descend here. Landing lights are going to come on at this stage. Up we go, 2 clicks. Our passengers behind us are all sound at the minute. So there's the runway ahead of us. So what we're going to do, sync our heading. We're going to go to heading mode. Now in a second, we're going to spin this around and make a right turn on heading mode. And we'll start banking out towards the right. So we're looking down here, parts of Kerry. That's out towards the Donegal Peninsula. We're out here the last day. James Foster is here. Yo, what's up? What's up with you, dude? Many thanks for joining us here on the stream. We're flying in the hot start TBM900 here on X-Plane. Stuart says, I'll be your FO. You absolutely will. Hop in here now. A virtual Stuart is sitting... The way I move the mouse, we lost a moment. But a virtual Stuart is now sitting behind us. Here's one for you. What does that do? Does that like pop the hood kind of thing? Or one of the storage compartments? Because we have another one here. We shall see. So watch our altitude as we fly up. It's like the Langoliers. There's no life here. There's no wind at all. Weird. So as we're approaching 2,500 feet, we want to watch our speed doesn't suddenly drop. We'll go for about 25% torque power here. And once we level off, we're holding our speed Everything looking good. Don't forget, guys, if you're on Twitch and you want to stay up to date, make sure you hit that follow button. I stream every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. And I'll try and do a few more. We're going to spin around here now to our left-hand side. Going to get the speed right down. 2,500 feet, all is looking well. Altitude setting, all okay. Stuart, you're playing an absolute stormer. It is a nice day below here in the county of Kerry. That should be our airport over there, which it is. There's our runway. So we'll continue on this heading. We can probably bring it down to 2,000 feet. Go ahead and VS that as well. Minus 500 feet. We're just approaching our flap speed. Try and get the speed down a little bit. These mountain ranges out ahead of us is home to the tallest mountain in Ireland, known as Carron. Not for the faint heart. Well, it's the biggest one in Ireland. There's far more bigger than it in Europe and, of course, in the States. Wonderful sounds. We're going to carry on this heading here now. Keep an eye on our speed. We're just about at our flap threshold. There we go. First notch of flaps coming in. You can see the speed bleeding off fairly quick. Adjust our torque to in around the 25% just to maintain speed. Uncle Finn is here. You're very welcome. He asks, where are we landing? We are landing in Kerry Airport, which is the default Kerry Airport. I know Boundless and Kino are currently working on their own rendition of the airport. That's due to release relatively shortly. So we're just using the default gateway airport here in the majestic county of Kerry. Kerry has it all going on. Beaches, mountains, countryside. A nice part of the country. So sitting at 2,000 feet, we'll continue on. Making a left turn here relatively shortly. Height-wise is fine. Speed is grand here at 110 knots. Double checking all our systems to make sure all is okay. All is good. Okay, so we're going to go ahead now, disconnect our autopilot and start our turn here to the left. Watch our speed as we do it. Landing gear coming down. That's going to increase a bit of drag. Go ahead with our second notch of flats. We have flaps. We have 3 green, indicating our landing gear is down and locked, as we're going to be turning final here shortly. Actually, that's interesting. I wonder does the logic of the TBM, because there is an automatic fuel selector on it. So I wonder, does the logic actually take into consideration the fullest tank on approach? So we're aiming for somewhere between kind of 90 to 100 knots. We're a little bit high. So we can correct that as we approach. No wind to contend with, so all is good. There's only one entrance onto the runway, so once we land, we'll be doing a UE and back taxiing. Watch our speed here as we come in. Quite a steep descent here, but we're well within our limits. Kind of 15 to 1800 feet per minute will be the other side of Holy Moly. Get ourselves aligned here for the center line. Now slow down our descent rate here. Bringing the nose up ever so slightly. Keep an eye on the speed. You don't want a sudden drop. Now on the glide slope. We approach the piano keys. Try and keep this on the center line. Bring our throttle back to idle. Keep an eye for the flare. Try not to float.
Airspeed.
There's contact. Go ahead, deploy our reversers. Keep them nice and gentle. There's 60 knots. Just a small bit of right rudder to get us down the runway here. Nice. Welcome to Kerry. So go ahead, bring our flaps back in. Careful of our prop RPM here. That was turned around as well. Alrighty. As we back taxi here. James Foster is now following. Many thanks for the follow, James. So, Kerry Airport doesn't handle a whole lot of flights, but Ryanair do fly out of here. Aer Lingus Regional fly out of here. I think Logan Air were doing some stuff down this neck of the woods as well. Ken has also joined the channel. Good evening to you. You're very welcome. Many thanks for the subscribe. James Foster says butter. John Doe says nice landing. Leads to off and rest trims and flaps. So we can put our trims off. Our flaps are off. What else? Bleeds to off. Which not bleeds already, would? Bleeds off. You'll make a pilot out of me yet, Stuart? Caution light for the bleed. Jimmy is here and is following. Many thanks, Jimmy. Jimmy the Dodge. There's a train also in the distance. Actually, I haven't seen trains yet on the other thing. That'd be interesting if there are. We shall wait and see. So, watch our speed coming in here. We have a FedEx feeder aircraft. And lights to off. Put our taxis on. A whole load of ground traffic here. Let's play chicken with them. So we're going to spin ourselves, park just outside of the visitor terminal. The shape of the building is fairly correct for Kerry. It's not a million miles off it. But I imagine the one from Boundless and Keno is going to be pretty much photoreal. As Austin's vegan food prepares to go for a spin around the runway. Alrighty. So we'll position ourselves just here. Go ahead now and activate our parking brake. Parking brake is set. So a quick check. Radars. So I think all we had running was NextRad. That's all turned off. So we've no radar to worry about. Pity Ballykelly wasn't open. That would have been interesting to model. I agree with you, Ken, 100%. Now, there's no avionics switch as such, so leave our nav lights on here for a minute. Auxiliary fuel, that's all okay. Fuel selection there, all okay. So we're going to go down to this neck of the woods, make sure our ignition is off, which it is, so she won't try and auto start. So we will go into high idle, and we can turn off our air conditioning unit. That to off, pressure mode auto, that's quite okay. Prop is coming down, bring her back into low idle. Have these wonderful engine sounds here. Steve-O would be proud. Yeah, right. Who else watches Steve-O and Knievo? It's like binged watched all of his episodes. They're fantastic. And even when during the lockdown he was making X-Plane 11 movies, he shot them the same way as he does. It's just amazing. Transponder back to standby. We can confirm now all our lights are off. Keep our nav lights on for a second just as everything's moving here. Fuel shut off. We're going to get a whole load of warnings and cautions and the devil knows what, but that's quite okay. Go ahead, open our little door here. We didn't need the fuel pump turned on. Okay, that would be engines off. Go ahead, turn our gens off, battery off. Get that bar closed as well. So all our power is off. As we're sitting here on the ramp, we can jump outside. Don't clip me wing. We'll zoom in here now and have a quick look. Go ahead, put our chocks back on. Payload. Go ahead, put our static and pitot heats on. We can't put the one on the front because it'll actually tell us that it's too hot. Actually, one thing is cool. You might hear this. If you zoom in, right? Let's try this camera. You can kind of hear it. Basically, it's the sound of the oil dropping back into the sump. Absolutely amazing. Right, guys, that is it for leg one of our trip. Going to take a quick couple of minute break as we're going to get our next flight up and running. We are here in Kerry. We're going to continue with our cross-country madness. We're going to go via the Cork and Waterford and probably head back up then the east coast. That's the plan of attack. So do stick around. We'll be back to you in a couple of minutes. Keep the chat going, lads. Interesting topics only. Andre says, sorry, I missed the landing. It was okay. I think we did a good job. As Stuart says, it's not an easy girl to fly. No, it's not an easy girl to fly. She definitely ain't easy, because it's so easy to drop the power and then it just wants to hit the deck. So we'll see how we get on here now. So I'm going to take a quick break, guys, and back to you in a sec. And we're back. That didn't take very long, did it? So, if you're just joining us, we're on the ground here in Kerry Airport. We took off from Weston, flew over the most centre point of the Republic, not the island now. Flew over Burr, Echo India Bravo Romeo. We then headed over by Shannon, swung left, and headed down here to Kerry. So, we're going to jump back into our TBM, set up our next flight plan. We're going to go from Kerry, we're going to go over Bantry, across to Cork, over by Waterford, and we're going to head back up the east coast to see what we can see. This is a flight I will be doing on the Microsoft Flight Sim when it releases in 15 days, so make sure you take down a couple of notes. We'll have a look to see what the differences are going to be like. Most notably, the clouds. Anyway. So you're all welcomed back. Stuart is gone. He's resetting his PC, getting everything set up for the new Microsoft Flight Sim. So he's going to be busy. So while we're here, we're going to check our fuel. We burnt a nice shot of it. We're going to pretend that fuel is good and cheap here in Kerry. So we're just going to top up our tanks here. Back to 110. We can remove our pitot and static covers. They're all grand. Get our door closed here as well. Don't need our chocks. Disappear this menu. Check to make sure our parking brake is on, which it is. We can see it here. So super. So we're going to start this machine here again. So battery bar goes up. That should activate our screens and computers here. You can see the Garmin powering itself up here. Battery can now go on. We're going to get our audio warnings now in a sec. Worry about our fuel pump here now in a second. Our nav lights are on. They come on with a battery. Cancel these guys for the sec.
Aural warning, okay.
OK these menus. Let the G1000 initialize here. As the plane figures itself out. You'll notice that we do have live temperature in the aircraft, so we'll let that burn down. There are a number of ways to reduce the temperature. You can spool the engine with no fuel. That'll actually help with the cooling. But I think we're under the limits here. We don't need to worry about that just yet. So we'll keep an eye if we get a hot start warning.
TOS system test, okay.
Our traffic alert warning system, or TOS, that goes through its own checks as well. So our inertial separator is on, our pitot and static heaters are all turned on, landing gear is down, 3 lights indicating are correct. We're going to go here into flight plan, and we want to clear this. Let me see, can we clear the whole shebang? Delete flight plan, that's what we're looking for. Yep, so Kerry is our first port of call. So our next one is going to be Echo India Bravo November, or Bantry. After Bantry, we're going to go to Echo India Charlie Kilo, which is Cork. After Cork, we're going to go to Echo India Whiskey, I think it's Foxtrot. It is. After that, we'll go to Echo India November Charlie, which is Newcastle in the county of Wicklow. And we could go back to Weston. We might get an L performance hit when we get there, but we'll see. So Weston, Echo India Whiskey Tango. That is our plan. So if we zoom out the map here, we'll show you the direction we're going. So we're situated here in Kerry. We're heading direct south over to Bantry. Bantry is a lovely part of the country as well. We're then going to make a turn to the east, heading over Cork and Cork City, over a little island, Middleton. They make decent whiskey in Middleton. We then get to Waterford. There's a very good flying school down in Waterford. We'll fly over that. We're then going to venture up over Newcastle. The little map loads again. So Newcastle Airfield here in the county of Wicklow, not too far from Newtown, Mount Kennedy. And once we get there, we're going to come back up towards Dublin and back into Weston here. So a nice circular flight on our cross country here around Ireland. So that's the plan. Stuart says 150 ITT or below, right, Stuart? That means we need to start this machine with no fuel. So we just engage the starter. So by not putting any fuel in, even though the NG will rise, we're going to see the ITT drop here. So that's what we want to do. So our ITT is going to drop now below 150, which it is. We can abort the start. That went fairly well. So what we're going to do now, turn our fuel pumps on. AP's on. But you wished. Alright. Now we're going to go for a start again. But this time, once our NG rises, we're going to introduce some fuel. ITT sitting at 122. This should be fine. So ignition goes to on. Starter engaged. Hold for 3 seconds. Our NG is rising. Dropping into low idle. So we're going to check our ITT for a hot start and our NG for a hung start. If we need to abort, we just hit our abort. So we peaked at 808, which is a little bit higher. It's about 60 degrees higher than what we did earlier on. But we're still all okay. NG is coming alive now. ITT has stabilized and reset. And we have a good start on our machine. Go ahead, put it into high idle. Get our ignition off. Boost back onto auto. Engine is running fine. Get our air conditioning back up and running as well. Our inertial separator is turned on. And go into a light range. Double check any recalls we have here. Give a flash with our taxi lights, because I saw Steve-O doing it and we'll do it. Alrighty. So, before we get going here, bit of house tidying up. Go ahead and set 6,500 on our altitude. METAR here in Kerry, 29902 is still active. We'll go ahead and leave that there, which is our barrow pressure. You need to change that. All is well. We'll jump inside the aircraft just to make sure everything is where we left it. I just got a Steam notification. Interesting. Anyway. She's looking well. Okay, time to get moving again on our next flight. So, to disengage our parking brake, we will put our toe brakes to full and then hit our parking brake button. Our taxi lights are on. Pulse lights can come on here now as well. Everything appears to be good and proper. And we can start our taxi. Watch out for the kamikaze diesel truck and well, whoever else wants to try and do a bit of messing. We can pretty much depart straight out here. Wind is no factor. We don't need to worry about pointing it in the direction. Such a cool plane, this. So, as we approach the runway, get our strobes on, landing lights on, check that everyone's okay in the back seat. Quick check of our windows here as well. Go ahead and drop a notch of flaps. We won't need all the runway, so we're pretty much good to go from here. Turn ourselves center here onto our center line. Okay, so lights, flaps, transponders on here as well. Into flight range. Start accelerating, keeping an eye on our torque. Airspeed is alive. Holding our torque here at around 90-ish is more than enough. Shot of right rudder coming down the runway. There's 80 knots. We're starting to get light now. There's 90 knots. Pull back on the stick. And we're airborne. Touch the brakes as the landing gear comes up. A strong climb out here. Bring our flaps back in. Turn our yaw dampener on. And we're airborne. Start our turn to the right here. 2,500 feet of a climb out. That was lively. It's still accelerating, so more than capable of a fast climb. We're looking to gain altitude relatively quick as we're going to be coming in over some of the biggest mountains we have in Ireland. So we'll continue our climb here as we turn right to a southerly direction. We have our yaw dampener on here. Get ourselves somewhat trimmed. And we're going to go ahead now and set up our autopilot. Go to nav mode, vertical speed. I'll go for 1500 on our climb. Autopilot on, nav should be set. We're on GPS. I don't know why we're not turning. Our autopilot is definitely on. If I can do our flight plan. Let's see now. Bantry. We want to activate that leg. Menu, start flight plan. Store, invert, delete, collapse, delete, great. We want to activate that leg. Interesting. So it's going to turn us back to Kerry, which we don't want. Get ourselves zoomed in here. So we want to go to here, enter that, menu, activate. That should do us. We will very shortly turn off our inertial separator. There we go. That'll get us lined up with that magenta line. Don't know what was the story there. Inertial separator coming off. Bring our landing lights off. We're going to keep an eye on our torque settings here. Just raise our seat up. Make sure we're at a decent altitude to clear some of these mountains. We're going to come fairly close to one of them, but Ken says, didn't you have the heading set instead of the course? No, I think we're on nav mode. We have some nice scenery here as well. Watch our torque now. Lower that back a small bit. That's because of our inertial separator. Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it? So once I went into our flight plan, I highlighted Bantry, I activated the leg, but it was still flying me off center of the magenta line. But look, it's working now. Now we're back to a, I won't say professional looking, but we look like someone who knows what they're doing. We look the part, kinda, nearly. Speed is gaining nice and fast here. Again, watch our torque. The high 80s is going to be good for me. We're only about 5 minutes away from Bantry. Torque to 75, says Stuart. Well, we better do what he says because he is the FO for tonight. There's 76, that'll do. Speed is probably going to stabilise at about 210. We'll do about 245 over the ground as we come into a small bit of scattered clouds. We seem to be looking good. So with Bantry is a great spot. Bantry Bay, and in particular there's a small little island there called Widdy Island. If you ever get the chance to go down there, you can get the ferry across. And there's not much on Widdy Island except for, well, there's a pub and a couple of houses, but it's really nice to walk around on. And then in Bantry, then at the seafront, it's all built up, as in they've beautiful pathways and walkways. Really nice. So we're fairly tanking it now. Power is set, everything looking just nice. We're about 3 minutes outside of Bantry. We'll jump outside and get some scenic shots just to show off the aircraft and also the scenery with a bit of Irish themed music. So we're making our first turn here just as we pass over the Bantry. We're going to head on now to Cork City. John Doe says, when Flight Sim 2020 comes, I'll make sure to do a tour of the Emerald Isle. It looks amazing. John, it absolutely does. And I have to say, I'm beta testing over on Microsoft Flight Sim. And I did this flight earlier on today in their version of the TBM. And this TBM in particular is quite special only because of the depth of systems modeling. Everything on this aircraft works the way it should do. But in terms of the scenery, it's not a million miles away. It's a couple of thousand miles away, but it's not a million. But definitely, they have one of their handcrafted airports in Microsoft Flight Sim is Donegal, which is up the northwest. So I would say if you want to start off in Donegal and head south and do a full lap. One thing I will say about Ireland over in Microsoft Flight Sim, the mesh is absolutely amazing. And if you're not really familiar what I mean by mesh, you can see all the mountains and stuff we have here, all the hills. You can see, you know, it's a mesh, so there's depth, how much they come up or how they come down. What went bang? My poster fell. It's okay, lads. It could have happened. It could have been worse. It could have been like a shelf or something. But anyway, I digress. So the mesh, it's not bad in X-Plane. There's third-party ones available, both pay and freeware. The freeware one is, what's the name of it? I think it's HD Mesh version 4, and like it makes such a difference to your sim. Now you need, like, you know, a master in engineering to figure out how to get your ortho tiles situated properly on top of your mesh. And it does give you a bit of a performance hit as well. But I've seen it set up. Once it does, it's really, really good. Wildman110 is here on Twitch. Many thanks for following along this stream. Don't forget, if you want to see more of this content, hit the little follow button. You'll get a funny sound effect. He asks, quick question. Were you aware that Microsoft... There you go. Speak of the devil. Wildman is now following. He asks, were you aware that Microsoft Flight Sim is available on Steam? Yes. So it's available, I think, for pre-order, but it won't be released until the 18th. But you can definitely get it on Steam. There's no differences. The Steam edition versus the Microsoft Store edition. If you prefer to have your Steam library with all of your own games intact, it's a no-brainer. It's fantastic to have. I purchased Microsoft Flight Sim before they announced it was going on Steam. Had I known at the time, I probably would have got it on Steam, only because it's really handy and everything is cloud-based. So if you change your PC, you're not worried about where did I leave this and where's the file and where's the program. So yeah. Yeah, the Steam edition is definitely a way to go. Wildman says, I already pre-ordered the Premium Deluxe version on Steam once I figured out it was available. Yeah, like it's you know, for me, when it came to X-Plane, X-Plane 11 was available on Steam as well. Now, granted, if you buy a platform off Steam, Steam are getting a cut out of the proceeds of that transaction. So when I purchased X-Plane 11 from Laminar, I bought it direct from them, only because, well, every cent was going to the developers. And if you think about it, X-Plane 11 platform, it's there since 2016, as in it's been for sale since 2016. That's 4 years ago. We've never had to put more money into that platform that Laminar get anyway. Like, yeah, we all spent money buying add-ons and stuff. So make of that as you will, but for $60 to get a simulator, a one-time purchase, considering it's a base level, it's an entry level, as in here's a platform, here's here's your sandbox, do what you want with it. I think Microsoft are giving us the same idea, as in here's a sandbox, okay, yeah, we've pre-made some of the stuff in it, but this is now your new base sim. There's a handful of things I really, really like in Microsoft Flight Sim. Most notably is the marketplace. So it's an inbuilt marketplace in the sim, which is going to be epic. If it's done right, it's going to be epic. A bugbear for me is any add-on or aircraft or scenery that you have to buy on X-Plane. It's either coming off the xplane.org store, X Aviation. You could pick it up from Just Flight, Sim Market. Doesn't matter where you buy it from. They give you an activation code with that. So when you add the add-on, into your sim, you have to activate it, and that'll either be done through the Sassel engine or the Gizmo engine. They're the only two I'm aware of. I think, not Skunkcraft, what's the other one? STMA, I think. They do another one as well. Which is grand, but there's a limitation to it. If, for whatever reason, your internet provider changes your MAC address on your machine, so if you're connected to like multiple PCs and that router every now and again will change your IP address, well then all your activations need to be reset. And eventually what will happen is you'll run out of activations. And when it does happen, you can't use your add-on. You got to send an email to the developer or to the place where you bought it and said, listen, I'm out of activations, can you reset it? And I've never had any problems, as in anytime I've ran out of an activation, it was usually sorted within like 30 minutes to an hour. But I have read about the horror stories. You know, you take off work, you get a long weekend, a 3 or 4 day weekend, you want to fly in your favourite aircraft, suddenly it won't activate. And, you know, they didn't get back to you in time, and I don't like that. John Doe says, I've pre-ordered from Steam myself and MS Store for your father. Fantastic. That's one thing I'm really looking forward to this. It's like, okay, it's not out on the Xbox yet, but when it is, it's going to be amazing to think that you can just fly with, and in a very simple way, you can fly with your friends in a very much controlled environment. So I released a video today over on YouTube, just some of the features coming out with Microsoft Flight Sim, and one of them is the multiplayer. And with multiplayer, you have 3 different modes. You have live players only, which is, real world weather, proper time of day. You got to go through all your procedures. There's no one going to be, taking off the wrong runway or any of this messing, which is really good. That's where the simulation really is going to live. That's where most of the guys who look for the high-end simulation, well, they're going to hang around there. No doubt your VATSIM and your Pilot Edge guys, that's where all them guys are going to be. The next up, you have all players. So all players is just, well, it's everyone else. Pretty much do what you want. You could have ATC on, mainly probably the in-sim ATC, and you can fly with whoever. You can have your buddies there, and you can fly in different servers. The other one, which is very interesting, is group. So you can set up your own group. So, for example, if we are all here tonight in the chat, which we're on YouTube and we're on Twitch and we're on Discord, well, if this was Microsoft Flight Sim, we could create a group, and in this group we can all be joined together. Could you imagine if you had like another 6 or 7 TBMs heading out that window, and maybe, 5 or 6 Cessnas out that window? That's going to be sweet. And again, it's group play, so that group, well, they'll dictate the weather, the time of day, and any of the flight rules. So that in itself, fantastic. Really looking forward to that. Wildman110 says, wait, would I get all my Premium Deluxe upgrades on the Steam version too? I'm unsure. I know you can transfer licenses from one platform to another. I'm unsure, will Microsoft Flight allow that this early on? Definitely worth an email though, just to ask the question. Stuart Payne says he's still waiting for his Aerobask DA62 to be reactivated. Yeah. There's nothing worse than having a phenomenal add-on. Look at me waffling and we just missed Cork. Hang on. Yup. That's Cork Airport behind us. That's why I'm not a tour guide. I'd be hopelessly bad. So Cork Airport, a much busier airport than Kerry. Number of flights Aer Lingus operate out of there, as do Ryanair. They do a couple of European flights as well. So as you fly out from Cork City, let us get our bearings here. So we have the South Ring Road. Then we have this little guy here. That's called the Jack Lynch Tunnel. You have the Duncattle Roundabout, and that's the N8 that brings you back up towards Dublin and everywhere else. This road here, I think it's the M25 or the N25. I could be wrong, but essentially you have Little Island. That's this area here. And if we look around Little Island, we come over a place called Fota. F-O-T-A. And Fota is a wildlife sanctuary. It's basically like a animal park, as our frames get a little bit jittery. And then you have the Fota Resort. They've tigers and giraffes and all sorts of lions and tigers and bears, oh my. Then you've a golf course. You head out further, you come out to Middleton. There's a magnificent brewery out there and distiller. If we pan the camera quite abruptly back, just over our wing here on the right hand side, or on our starboard side, that's the town of Cove, C-O-B-H. Cove was made famous for Titanic. She collected passengers on her way to America on her maiden voyage, which ended up in disaster. This island out here is known as Spike Island. It used to be a prison. It's actually an ancient prison. Then it became a fort, a battlement, and then a prison. Slightly to the right of that, you have an island called Haulbowline. That's the home of the Irish Naval Service, or the Navy. That's where all them lads hang out. So if you ever get the chance to go to Cork, absolutely super. Not to mention Cork City itself, with the number of pubs, clubs, restaurants, and just general places to have the crack. Cork is a mighty spot. Stuart says you can do that with a CSL file in XPilot on X-Plane. I've done it with a few friends bush flying around Canada. Interesting. But I have to say, like, how simple is it though, Stuart? It's like, with Microsoft Flight Sim, it's a little icon to press group, create group, add your friends in the group, and you all go flying. That's how simple it is, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So we'll jump outside again, get some nice shots. I'm going to disappear my face, and when I come back, the poster behind me will magically have reappeared. It worked. Magic. Well, Stuart says you put the files in XPilot, which you download, but it's not as nice as MSFS. But you can fly with friends. I will look into it. So we continue on our flight here. We're going to come up the south coast of Ireland, passing strange place names like Youghal, Y-O-U-G-H-A-L-L, and Dungarvan. So once we come into the Waterford side of the world, Waterford and Wexford and Dungarvan, all these places, they're Viking towns, named after the Viking invasions back in the Leighton Pleasantness. So we are ticking over nicely here. Fuel is good. Less than 8 minutes over Waterford control. We have a bit of cloud cover beneath us. Nothing too bad though. This plane just ticks over so nicely. We could probably hide the sounds, but I'm a sucker for the engine sounds on this. They're beautiful. So we can check out our total hours in the aircraft. I've only about 12. Really? I've only. Oh no, that's a new machine. Ah. I was going to say I've only 12 hours on this. You would think after having even 5 hours I would be a little bit more proficient with it. But I'm not. So we won't worry about that. Some nice shadow scattering here with the clouds as well on the ground. Makes it all very believable. We are tanking it. We're kind of over the yawl direction here now. Yahl. And again, what X-Europe is very good at doing, it drops in all these ground scenery objects. Now, it's not going to be, you know, photogrammetry or any of that, but it's still going to give you the correct elevation and for the most part the correct style. And that's a free program, and I do absolutely approve of it, especially if you're flying in Europe, especially if you're flying in Ireland. It just adds so many points of interest and landmarks. $45 for a PPL, 5 is nothing. They do say that's only, 45 hours is kind of like a guesstimate. I could be mistaken, but I've yet to meet anyone who actually got the check ride done at just 45 hours. Usually, I would imagine, depending on the flight school, depending how often you get to fly, depending on the weather, and your budget, of course, I would imagine it's somewhere between kind of 47 and 55, give or take. But again, I will say that the use of flight simulators in general, be it X-Plane or Microsoft Flight Sim, they do bridge a lot of the gap between the absolute new person and someone who's bringing a bit of experience and knowledge with them. Cat Strader did a very good podcast over on Threshold. He was speaking about how X-Plane helped him when he went for his PPL. And the way he explained it was how he approached the whole getting his PPL. He wanted his instructor just teach him to fly, the mechanics of flying the actual airplane, everything from the handling to, allowing the plane to fly. When it came to pretty much everything else, he was relatively comfortable with it. Any of the procedures, the navigation, how to contact ATC, and the multi-loading, how many tasks you need to be doing at any one moment. He was well used to that with Flight Sim. With X-Plane in particular. Stuart says, it's taken me over 25 hours to really get a feel. I'm coming up to 110 hours and 4 aircraft replacements due to system crashes. So we have a something loading, because we were getting a bit of downtime on our bit rate there. I hope we're back to normal, guys. Stuart, you have 110 hours on the TBM, is it? Says, my buddy had to wait due to COVID to stay current. We would fly twice a week. Sunday he got his PPL. Sweet! What did he do his training in? I imagine a 152 or 172, but a couple of schools have they have a couple of Pipers now. 110 hours logged on the TBM, mostly on VATSIM. That's fantastic. Hampus is here. Good evening to you, Hampus. You're very welcome. He says, hey mate, just saw your Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 video. Awesome stuff. Keep it up. Many thanks, Hampus. It's unless you have the beta, as in the preview copy of the beta, and this is me having a little rant, if you would allow me to have such a rant, but I don't see the point of just re-streaming or making a video or re-recording a video that was released without putting some sort of a spin on it. I've seen videos released which are the exact same as what was released by Microsoft, and they're just thrown onto a channel to say, yeah, you know, here's all the news. It doesn't make sense to me. We all have our own opinions. From what I can see, no one has really spoken about the differences between X-Plane or coming from X-Plane going over to Microsoft Flight Sim. That's pretty much what I want to focus on, because X-Plane 11 is my sim. That's where I spend all my time. With the new Flight Sim coming out, I will definitely be spending time in that, don't get me wrong. But I don't think it's going to close off X-Plane. Not completely. So I just think it's very interesting to compare like with like. And yes, there are going to be limitations, but on both sides there's going to be limitations, you know. So we're just over the Waterford. We have all the beautiful sand dunes and all the lower strands here. We keep panning up, we'll see the airport directly beneath us. There it be. A very good flight school below in Waterford. They actually fly diamonds down there, if I'm not mistaken. Varshan17 is here. He's over on Twitch. Good evening to you. Many thanks for joining. If you want to stay current with all this content and evening rambles, be sure to hit the follow button there on Twitch. Daza is here over on YouTube. Daza Arab, or Daza T Arab. You're very welcome. Evening all. Love flying the TBM900 and also been flying the SR22 today. Daza, that SR22 is a work of art. Absolutely amazing. Between the SR22 and the TBM, fantastic. Absolutely amazing. So I'm hoping the Saab gets the same modern treatment. The Saab is good as it is, but I would love to see a little bit more. Stuart says he started in a 152, then did familiar flights for the PA-28 and qualified on that. Yeah. I didn't have much luck in the 152. Ergonomically, no. So I've mostly been in a Cessna 172. I've been in a Arrow 3, I think it was. Was it an Arrow or an Archer? I think it was an Arrow. Of a handful of hours in one of them. Hampa says, I find it stupid that they're creating a monopoly for some YouTubers. Yeah, kinda. But I will say this, Hampus, with the release of Microsoft Flight Sim, if you get a chance, Frugal. Pete made a video there today, and it's typical of Frugal, whereby he's showing you what the sim is. He's making it relevant for all the people who are a fan of his channel, but also making it quite relevant for people who are absolutely brand new to any sort of flight simulation. Pete will be way up there when it comes to the quality of his content, and he was probably right to wait a couple of days before just lashing it out there. Like, there's other videos out on YouTube now, and they're not from flight simmers. Like, they literally nothing to do with flight simulation, and you can see them flying it. Everything's in the external view, you know. They're all like this, and they're doing barrel rolls and like Cessnas, and it's all very arcade and whatever else. But I say to them, welcome. It's a platform for which you're going to get whatever you want to get out of. You know, if you're going to do the hardcore simulation stuff, well, it appeals to us. If you just want to do the arcade and, you know, try and barrel roll a 747, why not? At least everyone is going to get their feet wet when it comes to flight simulation and what it is. Just sure, there's going to be people who weren't even aware that there was such a thing or such a following for Flight Simulator. And it's interesting on Twitch where you can start seeing the hype, and you go onto YouTube, every second or third video is going to be, oh, look at this, Microsoft Flight Sim. So they can't do much harm for it. Stuart says, my TBM flight are mainly Cardiff to Dortmund, Cardiff to Jersey, Cardiff to the Isle of Man, and Cardiff to Innsbruck. Ooh, Cardiff to Innsbruck, that sounds really nice. Stuart says, I did Cardiff to Shannon for the first time last week. Nice. Abba says, the Torque Sim SR22, correct. So that Torque Sim SR22, guys, it's absolutely amazing. It's brilliant. Stuart says, VATSIM will rock on there. It will, yeah, VATSIM will be very busy on Microsoft Flight Sim. But I'm hoping Pilot Edge jumps over as well. It will be interesting to see what happens. This is going to be classed as me spamming my own channel, but another shameless plug. Don't forget, guys, if you like this type of content, do hit the thumbs up. It lets me know that you're interested in it. You might even consider subscribing to the channel if it is something you like. I've other stuff I want to stream, like of American Truck Sim, Euro Truck Sim. We have Chopper flying here on X-Plane. Soon, and very soon, we'll have Microsoft Flight Sim. Not to mention a couple of other games and stuff we can get our hands on, just to break it all up every now and again. Stuart says, Pilot Edge needs to go worldwide. Yes, I agree. Pilot Edge, I had such an amazing experience on that. And like, the first time you're in any sort of ATC, even a VATSIM, like, it's terrifying. If you haven't a clue what you're doing, it's just terrifying. You lock yourself into a room, like, turn off all your speakers and like, wear your headphones. Ministry of Music says, ETA. Well, we have a couple of ETAs. ETA for landing is going to be somewhere in the next 15 to 20 minutes. ETA for Flight Sim is going to be the 18th of August, which is 15 days away. Daza says, I flew the SR-22 from San Francisco to LAX. It was a great experience. All with the North and South California Orbix True Earth scenery. That sounds amazing. I've had wonderful experiences so far in the SR-22, and it's by no means a simple plane to fly. You can still hop in and get it moving, but with Orbix, their North Cal and Southern Cal scenery, again, it's amazing. Absolutely brilliant. You know, the sheer number of objects and points of interest, landmarks, absolutely incredible. That was a great flight. San Francisco down to LAX in an SR-22 probably took the bones of an hour, I'd say, would it? Maybe more? So as we're coming up and along here after leaving Waterford, if we look out the right hand side, we have Wexford Neck of the Woods. So the names Waterford and Wexford, they derive from their Viking names. back in the day, the Vikings came over to Ireland for the cracking they said in their Nordic accents. This place will do. Daza says, just a bit more than an hour between flying and sorting out your kids. Yeah, like it's flying up that neck of the woods, and like if you add that level with the likes of Pilot Edge, absolutely amazing. Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Stuart, remind me. The first time you're on VATSIM or Pilot Edge and you got to speak, and it's I'll never forget it. It was like what was this? Was it San Luis? You know, San Luis, November 235 Romeo Mike is a Cessna 172. 8 miles to the south to land, and then they reply to you and you're like, what do you say, and then you play silent, and then they say something else to you, and then you say, what do you say, and then you exit your sim, and as you're typing, oh, had a bad internet connection, will retry, and then you sit back in your seat, you know, rub the sweat off your brow, psych yourself up for the next few minutes, you know, maybe drink some sort of liquid bravery, and then you do it again. And then when you do it again, after you report your position, they'll say, report a 3-mile final. And then you do, and then they say, you know, November 235, winds 16, 8 knots, runway 25, clear to land. And then you land it. And then that's the very first step. But apart from having all the, apart from having, you know, controlled airspace, which is fantastic, there's a lot of resources available on Pilot Edge. You can learn everything from the navigation. I'm also fairly certain Keith has a number of videos. Ministry of Music has just subscribed. You're very welcome. You are very welcome to the channel. Tom Reiser is here. He says, dude, great commentary. Many thanks, Tom. You're very welcome. Thanks for stopping by. We're just kind of having a yap about Pilot Edge and general ATC stuff for the newbies, whereby it'll terrify the heebie-jeebies out of you. But once you kind of bridge that gap, it's fine. And the more you do it, and I implore you, keep doing it. Even if you do the first flight 20 times, the exact same flight, just go back to Oceana and go off and do another flight up to San Luis. Or is it the other way around? I can't remember. Do it 20 times until you're absolutely comfortable with it. You're used to the way they're going to talk. You're used to how you're going to talk. It just builds up your confidence. And after that, you're good. And to be flying with real world ATC, like, it's one thing focusing on, you know, ground scenery and how well the model looks and the lighting and the performance and the yada, yada, yada. When you have actual ATC, and the ATC is as real as you're going to get it, it's mind-blowing. It'll completely transform your experience in a flight simulator. And I mean absolutely transform it. You have a lot of people who say, oh, you know, I need a reason to fly. I'm going to look at air haul, or I'm going to look at FS economy because I need a reason to fly. If you're just going on to fly on a network, that's reason enough to fly. They could literally throw anything at you, you know? They could give you a direct at any moment. They could hold you. They could divert you. Sweet. Daza says, I use Pilot to ATC, which is an offline ATC, but still works with voice commands until I get more confident. Absolutely. Pilot to ATC is a great starting point. And you'll see on Microsoft Flight Sim, even with the inbuilt, like this thing, which just doesn't want to work. It's probably a bug. It's probably a bug that I have running either with XATC or with the beta. But usually this works. But as an introductory point, absolutely. The more voice procedure you get comfortable with, it's really, really good. And like that, you know, most of the people on Pilot Edge, when they hear, and it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to have that bit of a shaky voice. You're either going to overcompensate on your pronunciation of things, so you will speak very clear and really pronounced. Other people who are flying on the network in that area, they're going to know, so they'll give you a wide berth, you know. Pilot Edge seems to have this reputation whereby oh, you're not allowed to make a mistake. Yeah, you're going to make mistakes. And if you have people who won't facilitate people learning, what's the point? Like, it's all about simulation, you know? Now, in saying that, don't go into controlled airspace where the operator is under a lot of pressure because there's a lot of traffic to get through. But I have to say, I still think you can get a free trial with Pilot Edge. It's absolutely worth it, considering if you were to get... It's worth like 2 flying lessons for a year's subscription. And you're going to learn an awful lot. There are so many resources available on navigation and voice procedure, how to talk, and when to listen. You know, it's really fantastic stuff. Stuart says, asking for a basic service on VATSIM made me wish I hadn't. Put in your flight plans, student, VATSIM, pilot, or newbie. Yeah, so on VATSIM, a little bit more forgiving. The operators, they're more experienced flight simmers in terms of, well, they know what it's like to fly around, and they've... Look, everyone's got to start somewhere. We've all got to start at zero. No one is going to come, unless you're a pilot, no one's going to come into VATSIM or Pilot Edge, you know, Mr. Hot Stuff, and know exactly how to say everything. It's just not going to happen. So what Stuart's saying is there, you know, if it's going to be VATSIM you try out first, put a little note in your flight plan, or you can contact the controller using text only, and just say, look, a little nervous, first time, don't want to make any mistakes, help me out. They'll help you out. They'll give you very clear instruction, they'll slow down their speech, they'll make things more clear, and they'll give you plenty of time to report back. But I have to say, if you're anyway interested, or you're anyway enjoying your flight simulator, and you're just, you know, doing random flights, you got to get into the ATC. It's a game changer. There, instead of 3 annual a lot. Yeah, I'm a divil for saying M. Some of my earlier videos, I still do on all my videos. Hello and welcome to this video. I do it all the time, and on VATSIM I do it all the time. This is November. What am I? It happens, like, it just happens. Frank Pels is here. He says, what do you think of Flight Sim 2020? Frank, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining us here this evening. I have to say, I'm really looking forward to it. It's by far one of the nicest, it is the nicest looking sim, if we want to call it that. The world they have created is just breathtaking. For the lighting model, the aircraft, they look absolutely gorgeous. The weather system is like nothing I've ever seen anywhere. And how they've gelled it all together, it's absolutely amazing. I've had access to the alpha now for a good while. I'm working on the beta as well. I'm so excited for launch day at the sim, when everyone gets to experience what it is, because we're all looking at it on different machines. You know, some of the high-end YouTubers, they all have monster PCs. Some of us work off potato PCs. Like, where's it all going to add and end up? I will say this to you, provided you meet the minimum specs, you're going to have a good experience. You just are. It's a highly optimized sim. Dazza says, my kids give me weird looks when I speak to your kids give you weird looks when I speak on Pilot to ATC. I get that all the time. As we fly over Newcastle here, don't mind that oddly coloured ortho tile. So this little airstrip here, if you guys are familiar with the work of Gripper Sim on the reaction review, that's his local airfield. I believe Gripper Sim is an actual flight instructor. He is a pilot. So I'm really looking forward to his content when Microsoft Flight Sim is released, because he's definitely going to be involving us in the tutorials. And it's one thing picking up a few hints and tips from us simmers, but once you get an actual pilot in there, that should definitely help. Many thanks, Stuart. as the sim is now becoming a little bit choppy, we're loading in some dub. There we go. That got dodgy. I hate when I see real jittery sims. Stuart says my partner does the same. Tom Riser says, I only watched a couple of early videos of 2020 Microsoft Flight Sim. I stopped because I want to be surprised in a big way. You're going to be surprised. It's epic. Really, really good. Stuart says he's a CSI or CSI. Murph, the night is getting light. The night is getting light. He's a CFI, isn't he? Yes, I believe he is a CFI. Dazza says, I have pre-ordered the premium deluxe version of Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, but will still keep my X-Plane 11. You're a man after my own heart, Dazza. I'm going to do the exact same thing. There's features here in X-Plane. I haven't seen them yet over in Microsoft Flight Sim. We have choppers in X-Plane that I love. Again, choppers have been mentioned as an upcoming update, so they're going to be rather interesting as we're fastly approaching Weston. Do you know, I don't think we're going to land in Weston. I think we're going to add to our flight plan because I don't like the way we're getting heavy frames. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go for Donegal via Sligo. Echo India Sierra Golf, and then we'll go Echo India Delta Lima. Now we got a flight plan, and that'll bring us up nicely. So we're going to fly over Weston, up by Sligo, and then we'll make a full stop landing in Donegal because I'm not getting decent frames here in the county of Dublin. So I wouldn't be too happy with my old landing performance. We'll end up like strawberry jam on the runway. Dazza says, also for the reason I spent quite a lot of money on X-Plane 11. There should be t-shirts. No, we'll end up spending more money, but there should be like t-shirts awarded to those who have invested so much into Microsoft Flight Sim X, P3D, and X-Plane over the years. Now, you're not, well, you wouldn't be far off, considering that's 3 sims, if you had 3 sims, or even 1 sim, you wouldn't be a million miles off the price of a PPL, I would think. Somewhere in the regions of 5 to 10 or even 12,000 euro. Which is probably, $7,000 to $15,000 or £4,000 to £10,000. It's going to be somewhere in and around that we have spent over the years, be it on computers and hardware, your throttles and joysticks and whatnot, pedals, add-on aircraft, add-on textures, clouds, weather engines, scenery. As Ken has quite pointed out, don't forget Flight Sim 2004 as well. Yep. Actually, was it? I think it was Flight Sim 2004. Was it that one? That wasn't a Century of Flight. Flight Sim 2004, I think, was the first platform I bought add-on stuff for. Flight Sim, yeah, it was, definitely. You used to get... I might even have one. I have a box over here in the corner. And it's a C-130 Hercules, compatible with FSX and Flight Sim 2004, and that was standby. So this thing Jesus. This was $40 or €40. Just remember them. C-130 Hercules, and it says on the side, shaky camera Murphy. You can't see that. Maybe you can see that. FSX or Flight Sim 2004. And this was released in 2008. It came with like manuals of stuff. Like that's a manual of stuff. $240 pages of a manual. I will say this though, I do miss the printed manuals you would get with some of the add-ons. But it's a brave new world that we have in our virtual stores. But most of the devs do a PDF download, which is sweet. Stuart says, including my PC and upgrades to run X-Plane the way I like, since a new build in Feb this year, 6,000, holy moly, £6,511. And Hampa says, the question is, was it worth it? Dazak goes on to say, my wife could have bought a lot of handbags and shoes for what I spent. And potentially a new husband. Ken says, yes, it was a Century of Flight. Yeah, that's the one. Flight Sim 2004. I had the Wright Flyer. And I had the Spirit of St. Louis. And I had... what else did I have? I remember I had some really old planes. And then I had the modern stuff as well. And I remember when FSX came out... We'll just give the sim a second here. We're kind of buffering. Try and get our frames back to where they need to be. We'll just look up here for a minute. That seems to work. The question is, was it worth it? The DC-3 and the Comet. Oh, yeah. Stuart says, £642 on this org store alone. Worth every penny. I'm too scared to price up all the Orbex. Yep. And here's one for you. We're talking about our flight simulators. The elephant in the room would be DCS. Does anybody have DCS? Because the modules for that thing, they ain't cheap. The weekend in May of this year, I picked up DCS and a number of modules. And whilst I do adore that simulator, I don't have sufficient time to kind of beat the learning curve. I can do a little bit, but not enough. But I will get back to it. Because that in itself, apart from looking absolutely amazing, the system modelling in that thing is absolutely phenomenal. I think our frame rates are going to be happy again where they are. Like, yeah, like what I've put into... My wife is probably watching this stream, so there's a good chance I can't tell you how much I've invested. I'm going to say maybe €500. That's yeah, that's all it was. Yep. So yeah, it's very hard to leave. It's very hard to leave a platform after you invest so much into it. Now, the only thing is, if you get a return on said investment, well then your quid's in. You know, if you buy an aircraft like this TBM, for example, this thing wasn't cheap. If you wanted to buy this today, you would be looking at $64.95. And that is just one. So they don't come cheap, guys. But you do get, well, for the most part, there are some dodgy devs, as I call them, out there. But for the most part, you do get an instant return on your investment. You're either getting something that's really special, and you're going to put a lot of time into it, as Stuart says with his 110 hours. So yeah, like they're all relevant. All relevant. Yeah. Then you look at your pedals and yokes and tablets and... oh yeah. But it could be worth, like, we could be down at the pub tonight, lads. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I always say. Right, I could be in the pub. I could be drinking it. Or gambling it. Or, you know, buying outlandish clothes. Checking me T's and P's, zoom in. We should be hunky-dory. 121 on our pressure, which is a little bit high, but we're still quite okay. Oil temperature is super. Our trims are set, but we're on autopilot. PSI in the cabin, everything is fine here. Prop RPM sitting nicely at 2000. Torque 80%. Our NG 89.4. And our fuel quantities a little bit low on the left. That'll automatically swap over to the right hand tank. We'll keep an eye out for that. We don't need any sort of manual override on our power settings here. Our flaps are up. Checking then over our top panel here. Our lighting is still off. No need for that at the moment. Ignition is turned to off. Auxiliary boost pump is turned to auto. Fuel selector is on auto. And our autopilot and trims are set to on. So we should be good. I put out a note on Discord earlier on, which was interesting reading, and it's to do with FlyJ Sim in relation to their Q400 coming out to X-Plane, and also their shared flight development. Let's have a look here. So FlyJ Sim are working on this shared flight, shared cockpit, essentially, right? Now they've already, you know, they've come out to say the aircraft is going to be supported with this. They're working with Flight Factor, IXCG, Tolis, Rotate, Laminar's default ones, Hold My Beer get a mention, Just Flight, and the Zebo mod. Now I don't see what to do. Moving forward, FlyJSim looks to expand the fleet of aircraft compatible with shared flight. They have shared an initial compatibility list for the upcoming closed beta. The Hotstar TBM900 is in it, which is going to be amazing. So it just means you can have two peoples in the one airplane, which is going to be incredible. It's going to be absolutely incredible. So flight time, we're about 15 minutes away from Sligo. We're going to enter Sligo, coming in kind of from the Knock direction. We're going to fly over Ben Bulben, which is a beautiful mountainy area in the county of Sligo. Trying to think of the mountain range. Adultery, is it? I think they're the Dalton Mountains. Father Son Flight Simulator is here. He says, greetings, Two-Tone Murphy. Love the TBM 900. You're very welcome, Father Son Flight Simulator. That's a great username. You're very welcome to the channel. If you do like this stuff, give us the old thumbs up, and you're more than welcome to hit the subscribe button to be a member of our elite and unique group of people who are flight sim enthusiasts and also TBM experts. And we have Black Knight, who's here. Good evening to you, Black Knight. He says, if you're talking about spending the money down at the pub, it can really only be considered renting whatever you consume and its after effects. I don't know, there have been times that Flight Sim has given me a headache. Usually if I do something wrong or I crash or the sim itself decides to have a bad day at the office and it crashes, that'll give you a bad headache. Father and Son is already subbed. Thank you very much. I'm sure there's a way for me to check that. It's just, yeah. I do hope you're keeping well, though. Many thanks for joining us here tonight. We've started off in Weston. We flew across over Birr, which is in the county of Offaly, right in the Midlands of Ireland. We then headed west over Shannon Airport, just outside of Limerick. From Shannon, we turned left to a southerly direction down to Kerry Airport, which is situated just outside of Killarney. We took a 5-minute pit stop there. Then we resumed. We blasted off from Kerry and we headed over Bantry Airport. We turned to our east and headed over Cork City. From Cork, we came up over Youghal and into Waterford Airport. We then turned kind of a northerly direction, headed up by Newcastle in County Wicklow. We've just since passed Weston Aerodrome, and we're now heading directly across the country again over to Sligo before we turn north up to Donegal, and we're going to plan our full stop landing in Donegal. Stuart says, I've gone square eyes a few times. That's what Flight Sim. I've gone square eyes at it a few times. Yet to wake up regretting where I am yet. Yep. Although there's nothing worse when you come in from work or you're out with the kids and it's your time. You know, the special time of the day. This is my time. You know, I'm going to come on my Flight Sim. It's my time. And you make yourself a brew or you get a beer or a coffee or whatever, and you come into your little den of iniquity, your little games room, or wherever it's going to be, or you put on your headphones, and it could be in your living room, or it doesn't matter where it is, but you're now in the zone. And you set up your flight, jump in the sim, you know, you blast off, and it's therapeutic. You're just absolutely delighted to be there, and within a couple of minutes, and then you wake up with either alarms going off in your head that you've run out of fuel, or you're now adrift somewhere out in, be it the Atlantic Ocean or like the Indian Ocean or even the Pacific Ocean. Been there. That happens a lot. Father Son Flight Sim says, flew Fullerton to the Grand Canyon last night in the TBM900 and Pilot Edge. Nice! That's a great flight. He then says, and great news, my son has just started ground school this week. That's amazing news. Fantastic. Yep. The absolute best of luck. Ground school is cool. You learn an awful lot. Mainly the navigation stuff. Whereabouts are you doing whereabouts is your son doing the training? We'll continue on our flight here. We'll get some more scenic shots before we get to Sligo. Autopilot is great. Tom, autopilot is your friend. Alrighty. Redneck Loving Life, you're very welcome to the stream. Many thanks for joining us. He says, looking good. Thank you very much. We're flying over Ireland on our way from Weston, which is just outside of Dublin. We're going to fly up over Sligo, which is right out on the west coast. Once we get over Sligo, we're going to turn to the north and head for Donegal Airport. We're in the hot start TBM900 here on X-Plane 11. And I have to say, it's looking decent. Father Son Simulator says, scroll back. We're coming to you from North Carolina, Lake Norman. Sweet. He says, I doubt the Microsoft 2020's TBM will be as good as the Hot Start's TBM, but we'll see. Yeah. I'll tell you on the 18th. We'll have to wait until then. It's not bad. I can say that. And it looks stunning. Stuart says, not a default no, but if the dev puts one in, it should be. The PC12 NGX I'm waiting for. I've been waiting for that for years. Coronado's is pants, even with the upgrades. Coronado's isn't too bad, like it's still a PC12, but yeah, it's yeah. Black Knight says, the first add-on he got for Flight Sim was the Aircraft and Scenery Designer, and I think the European Scenery one for FS4. That's awesome. Redneck Loving Life says, the TBM in 2020 is pretty sweet. It looks the part. It absolutely does. We've seen public videos of it. I think one of the YouTubers are due to make a video on it. I've seen it in they released that way back in the alpha, and they have it in the beta as well, and it is sweet. It's very, very good. Don't forget, guys, if you're watching this over on Twitch, I'm trying something new tonight, by the way. It's multi-streaming, and that's where this Restream IO thingy. So far, it's working out okay, but it just means it'll stream both on YouTube and on Twitch, because I was trying to figure out, will I go on Twitch tonight, will I go on YouTube tonight? And it's still quite a small little channel we have here, which is handy. We're not worried about many people. So it's nice to broadcast on both platforms for the moment, just to get a bit of exposure and, yeah, stuff. So if you're over on Twitch, if you do like this, hit the follow. You'll stay up to date. I stream every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and any other day I can. And I try to release a couple of videos then each week as well, time permitting, of course. Stuart, the oil pressure is climbing, and yet our temperatures are okay, but the pressure is definitely rising. Now, what we could do to help matters, we can certainly throttle back, and I'm thinking we'll turn back on our inertial separator. I think you've less than 200. I think is a safe speed for that. Hopefully we haven't turned it on there too soon, but we'll drop our speed right back. That'll allow the inertial separator, and see if that makes any effect on our PSI. Just by lowering our torque, it's dropped a bit. Speed to 180, yeah, no, we're good for that. Torque to 60. We'll kind of hold it somewhere in there. That's okay. Acorn Soft Aviator back in 83. Redneck says they've lifted a lot of the NDA. They have. They certainly have. Father and son flight simulator. I do. I see what you did there, and I like it. Everything I do with videos is. Do we call it a wawa or a wawa? As work and wife allow. That is a fantastic way to say it. I should start putting that in my description and see who will actually cop it. So as we're here over the Sligo, if we look at our window, we have. Hang on. We'll go for the extended window view. And even though we have a bit of cloud here to contend with, you will see Ben Bulben. This neck of the woods in Sligo, it's all Yates's country, where we have Sligo Airport beneath us. If you ever get the chance to go to Sligo, you can literally park your car outside of the little airport and you can walk around the entire perimeter of the airfield. There's only a fence there and there's like an old church ruin you can go in. And if the weather is anyway decent, it's great for plane spotting. You'd rarely get anything bigger than a Cessna in there, but the odd time you might get a Beechcraft. There's Ben Bulben over here. Magnificent mountain ranges. As we go on up here then, I do think that lake is Glencar Lake, if I'm not mistaken. It kind of borders Sligo and Leitrim, I think. Over here, is it this way as Ross's Point? Ross's Point out this neck of the woods as well. So we're still monitoring our PSI. It's back up to 121. That could be indicative of an issue. But the good news is we're only about 12 minutes away from Donegal Airport, which is where we'll be doing our full stop landing. We're going to set our altitude down to 3,000 feet. We're going to VS it, and we're going to drop the nose down to 800 feet per minute. We're going to throttle back here as well, not to increase any speed. Senan Gallagher is here. Good evening, Senan. Good to see you. Your local airport, Senan. You're getting all the exposure this evening. We're going to land in Donegal. For those of you, as I said, unfamiliar with this airspace, Donegal is one of the handcrafted airports coming out in Microsoft Flight Sim, and it's available in the standard version. It's a really nice little airport, and it was actually voted one of the nicest or the most scenic approaches in the world. One of them. What number it came, I'm not sure, but it's definitely listed as one of the most beautiful approaches, and it is quite nice. Then it says Finner Camp will be off to our right hand side in a couple of miles, so we're looking for not Bundoran, is it? What's the other one? What's up that neck of the woods? Not is it Ballyshannon? Interesting. Let us open the map. Finner. So it's classed as a helipad here. The runway itself, I haven't been up there in years. Did they actually build houses on the runway? I'm unsure. Try and zoom in here to see if we can see Finner. There's something over there. Ah, there it be. Just as the clouds hit us. So Finner Camp, it's a military installation. Used to be primarily used for the Cessnas. Come on, Cloud, you're wrecking our buzz here, man. Well, what did you expect? We are in Ireland. See, can we turn the sky? So there's Finner Camp down there, as we can kind of see it through the clouds. So you have like a military area and a bit of a barracks in there as well. That'd be Finner. Bundoran and Ballyshannon. Oh! So Black Knight is giving us a METAR for the Donegal. 031803 or 30 Zulu time. Winds 250 at 10 knots. Overcast conditions 4,700. Temperature 15 degrees. Dew point 10 degrees. Our QNH is 1015. No runways. No, the runway's still maintained and could still be used for fixed wing. Helis fly in and out every few weeks. We recently saw the PC-12 flying low over the runway. Interesting. Right, now, what's the sim telling us in Donegal? 299 or 2 in the sim. So the sim has not loaded in the weather. Why is that now? FS Global Real Weather. Save to Metar. Last update. 2015. Yeah, that probably explains it. We'll go to heading mode here. As Stuart goes through our checklist here, he says check list altimeters, set pressurization, check pre-check fuel, amps and voltage, and check our de-ice if required. So temperatures and pressures, we have a warning, well not a warning, but our oil pressure is at the higher end of the scale. Electrical systems are all okay, fuel tanks are all okay, we should be on the right tank, which we are. Cabin altitude is okay and the rate is falling. Our differential PSI is lowering as well. Landing is 153, we're good to go on that side. So as we approach Donegal, we're going to just watch our altitude here as we come in over these nice mountain ranges. If we look out and kind of ahead, I do believe that's Mount Errigal up that neck of the woods. As the zoom is doing something weird with the clouds there. Nice scenery up here. So double check now, got our landing lights on. Our peoples behind us are all okay. Autopilot is on, everything is on auto, that it should be. We're slowly reducing our speed here as well, which is going to be ideal. And basically, my plan is we're going to go back into heading mode relatively shortly. We'll bank around these little islands and then we'll spin into Donegal. So if you want to have a look at the airport, if you hit the M key, it'll bring up your map and you can see our location here on our heading bug. We're pretty much going to be flying straight in. Now let me think, where's the terminal? What's down here? Yeah, so we want to do. We want to land on runway 21. So we're gonna fly. We can nearly do it now, says you. So our heading is at 015. We're gonna turn that to 360 or 0 degrees. Activate the heading bug here now. We're going to head due north. That's going to take us slightly left of Donegal, which is all gravy. Continue on this heading now for a little bit. Brennan asks, is this ortho scenery? It is, but it's from vertical... Is it... how many times do I forget the name of this? V countries... no, V states. Wait now, I'll figure it. Vertical Sim Studios, called V Countries. It's a free add-on. You have to download it. It's a whopping 50 odd gigs. But for the most part, they have color corrected the island of Ireland. And it also comes with its own set of overlays. Like this neck of the woods, you can see there's a lot of mesh. See the way like there's great depth here, there's cliffs and hills and whatever else. But over on Microsoft Flight Sim, the mesh is very good. Father Son Simulator says the checklist in the MFD is worth a try. There's only one minor mistake, I think, where it states the nav light as the strobe light. Interesting. Dun, 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 dun. Now, if we want to see checklist, normal procedure, starting engine. Go to the next checklist. Back here, you devil. So check. After startup, yeah, we did all that. Taxiing, did that. Before takeoff, did all that. Climb, we did all that. Guess who didn't follow the checklist? Descent, altimeter setting done, de-icing system done. Caution, if heavy rain, turn ignition and inertial separator on. Interesting. Windshield, misting protection systems as required. Gauges check. Fullest tank select. Passenger briefing, we're going this way. Seatbelts, harnesses, passengers table stowed, which is done. Approach, altimeters are checked, gauges checked, fullest tank, inertial separator switch is on, landing lights off, taxi landing switch, they're on landing, that's done. Before landing, landing gear control, haven't done yet, flaps to landing, autopilot disconnect, and yaw dampener is off. So we'll park that for the moment because we're not there just yet. But that is handy. Stuart says we're good. I have it open. Come on, Stuart. Stuart is our FO for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. He is virtually sitting here in the right hand side. He took the headphones off first. Everything is stowed back here. We've no passengers to worry about. Ah, that's how you move it, look. So we have our oxygen tank on, which just looks, well, a little bit disturbing, to be honest. Let's put it back there. So again, don't need to worry about our landing gear. Our landing lights are set. Our barometric pressure is set according to the sim, although it's not being read in the real world, but we'll figure that one out now. We're in manual heading mode. As we look out, we see Mount Errigal and Glenveigh National Park is up that neck of the woods. The airport of Donegal is over there, straight ahead, kind of ish. So our plan is to fly up past it, and then we're going to make a U-turn and go for a landing on runway 21. Oxygen on. Ah, look at that, Shani, look. Darth Vader at the helm. That's savage. Okay, turn off the oxygen. With you back. Stuart, I would literally be lost without you. Fair play, that man. So, our near enough to our final approaches here. We'll do our last bit of scenic flying here. Alrighty. We're getting close. Neil Parry is here. Good evening, Neil. Thanks for joining us. Cracking plane. It just is. Phenomenal plane. I'm surprised I haven't streamed this thing at all yet. It'll certainly be getting a lot more love and attention over the next few weeks, I think. And definitely going to be one of the reasons we jump back inside X-Plane. Father Son Flight Sim says, thanks for checking out the checklist. No problem. Roger, roger. What's our vectors, Victor? We need clearance, Clarence. We're passing over Aaronmore Island. Stuart says, beautiful country you have, lads. Stuart, it's a beautiful part of the world. If we're going for visual approach, can we have 1,000 above the airfield, please, boss? Yes, we can, Stuart. I just want to double check 1,000 is going to be okay, because in my charts I do believe it was 1,600, but we'll go for 1,000. Altitude select. Down to 1,000 feet. V-speed that, and we'll go for a descent. Also want to adjust our heading here. Right turn. Quick double check, landing lights are on. I'm going to bring our throttles back here as we watch our speed. There's a warning for our landing gear just as I bring the throttle back. 1,000 to go. So we're going to turn on the right base back towards the airport. Just over there. Just off the beach. So our speed is coming down nicely. Go ahead, get ourselves zoomed in here so we can see our approach line. The weather is no factor, nothing to worry about. As we watch our speed slowly but surely decrease. We're going to be dropping our first notch of flaps here at 130, which will be checked by the steward. The steward. No, we'll just... That was a bad move. We'll just say steward. Okay. Deactivate our autopilot. Start our roll here. Flaps down one notch. Yaw dampener can come off. We continue our turn here. We're looking for our visual reference for the runway. The flaps add so much drag to the aircraft. It can be a real handful. So we'll keep our speed up in and around the 110. Zoom in here, get some sort of a visual reference. The runway is just kind of 1 o'clock of the nose of the plane. Approach is good. Try and hold our altitude here as best we can, just under 1,000 feet. Activate some of our trims here. Easy does it. This is pretty much bang on the approach that's available over on Microsoft Flight Sim. The ortho tiles are the same, they're from Bing. Okay, 118 now. Landing gear extended, we're waiting for 3 greens. We can consult our checklist rather. All is good. We can confirm that our landing gear is set, our yaw dampener is already off. Flaps come down to landing. Watch the drag now. And watch our speed. Bring our torque up to about 40 for the moment, just to stabilise our speed. Then slowly but surely start bringing it back again. Get ourselves lined up here with the centre line. As we approach the runway, our eyes look at the foreground first and then immediately to the background, because if you focus on the start of the runway, there's a good chance you'll run out of it. So a tip is always look at the end of the runway, and that'll help with your flare as well. 700 feet now. A little bit high in our approach. We're just above the glide slope. We can correct that now by losing a bit of power. Keeping the nose down. We don't want any more than 1,000 on our descent rate here. Otherwise we'll upset our passengers. That's a little bit better. We have ground traffic driving around here. That's probably sending out for the scenic shot. Watching our speed. Keep it on the centre line. We're now on the glide slope. Better late than never. And we can watch our flare here now. There's flight idle. It's the nose. Hold it here as long as we can. A little bit of a float. There's contact on the back. And we have our reverses now engaged. Decel. Small bit of right rudder. Keep ourselves on the centre line. Our speed is dropped below 40 knots now. And welcome to the Donegal. Back into taxi range. Bring our flaps back in. For our shutdown. Go back into this now in a few minutes. So our autopilot and trim can come off, and our bleeds can come off, and we'll just taxi our way over to parking here on the left hand side. Pattern Sun Flight Sim says, very nice, thanks for the ride, you're most welcome. And many thanks to you and to everyone else here tonight for tuning in, to checking it all out. Right Rudder is here. He says, nice. Many thanks, Right Rudder. You're very welcome to the chat and to the stream. I hope you enjoyed it. We did a nice cross-country all around Ireland here tonight in our beloved X-Plane. And who have we got there? Ocala is now following. You're very welcome. Many thanks for the follow. As we taxi in here to the ramp, turn off our landing lights. Kill our strobes here as well. There's no random traffic we need to worry about. This scenery is that of Kino. Absolutely amazing. And it's very, very accurate. Ken says, nice landing. Stuart says, clean up. Bleeds off. Bleeds are off now. Senan says, Falcha go Donegal. Mahan Buchel. Stuart Payne gives a thumbs up. Trigger says, nice. Black Knight says, nice landing, two-tone. Stuart says, that's worth extra thumbs up. Yeah, if it was a bad landing like that, that just permits you like to no longer subscribe to the channel and just leave, because if you can't do a decent landing at this stage, what's the point, eh? Bit of reverse power just to get ourselves stopped here on the line. Go ahead, engage our parking brake. John Doe says, amazing looking approach. It absolutely is. I can't wait for you guys to try this in the new Microsoft Flight Simulator, because it is a thing of beauty. So we go ahead now and go to... No, we don't want that anyway. Don't break the plane, Murphy. We want to go to high idle. Go ahead and turn off our air conditioning. Our pitos can be turned off here now as well. We're checking our overhead. So ignition is set to off. Fuel select. Now we can leave it on auto. Turn off the pumps. Pulse lights, they're off. Nav lights are still on. Inertial separator, we can leave that one on. Low idle. Make sure we don't get any more warnings. We certainly need to check out the oil pressure, figure out what went wrong with it, as our ITT is stabilizing at 605. Main engine off. Our fuel has been cut off. We'll get a whole load of warnings and stuff, but we're quite okay with that. Go ahead, open the door, breathe in some of that fresh Donegal air. All our warnings coming on here now, but they're all quite okay. Pilot Wannabe is here. He says, Two-Tone Murphy, an actual linguistic connection. I learned something new this week, and it's all your fault. Pilot Wannabe says, I watched one of your videos last week. I could have sworn you were from Canadian from Newfoundland, based on your accent. I have many accents. None of them are believable, but I do have many. Anyway, as we continue to get ourselves tidied up here, starter goes to off, generator can go down, our main battery can go to off. Nav lights come off with that as well. Last warning lights can come off. Everything's tidied up here. And bring our power bar down. There we have it. You were all very welcome to Donegal. That was great, wasn't it? A cross-country flight that took in most of Ireland on our 3-hour excursion on a Monday night. Sure, what else would you be doing on a Monday night, lads? Stuart, I will have to check all the maintenance reports because no doubt I've broken a something in the plane. Well guys, just to recap, we took off from Weston, we flew across Burr and Shannon over to the west coast of Ireland, we headed south, went over Kerry. From Kerry then we took a quick break, we then resumed and departed and headed over Bantry. We took in the sights of Cork and Cork City. We headed over by Waterford, came back up the east coast over Wicklow, across Dublin, back over Weston. We then nailed it over by Sligo before turning north to land here in the beautiful Donegal. My thanks, as always, for everyone for tuning in tonight. I had an absolute blast, and I would not have been the same without you. My thanks for Stuart as our first officer, helping us all out. For everyone in the chat, both here on YouTube and on Twitch, there will be a shameless plug at the end, reminding you to like and follow and even subscribe, perhaps, and tell your friends. So guys, until Wednesday, look after each other, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, guys.